Good morning, Samoa, and welcome back to another episode of Generation for Tomorrow, a youth talk show where we discuss taboo issues happening with the youth today, but also celebrate the success of our young champions and also promote works of our young entrepreneurs. I am Tia Maria Pepetafi Aluni, your co-host for today, a scholar and member of BGW, a nonprofit organization that recruits, trains the youth, and dealing with critical issues happening in Samoa. As usual, today we have two amazing special guests with us this morning. Our very first group of guests with us for our first 30 minutes and our second group for our last, so stay tuned. Joined with me today is my beautiful co-host. Good morning, Joss.
Morning, Tia. Ia, e whaatalofa atu Samoa I lau whaasausanga I le nei Taeao. Ia o lau pokalama. Masani le ne e whapitoa mo Tupulaga mo a Taeao, tu saoina atu I lau ala ata TV tolu, iwa I le sefulu I Taeao o aso lulu taitasi, ia o a ua Jocelyn ne le ilua. O se tasi foi o sui o le Brown Girl Walk mo le atina eina o Tupulaga lalawa o si o tātou atunu.
Welcome on our show, Joss. Here with us, our first beautiful guest for this morning. But before we introduce her, here's a video a little bit about her work.
Talofa lava. We are EcoTour Pacific, a youth-led initiative to connect Pacific youth from across the region onto a platform and amplify their voices on the climate crisis and children's rights. EcoTour Pacific is a regional organization that stems from a primary school environment club called the EcoTour Club at Waiala Beach School. This was started in the beginning of 2018 by Aniva Clark and is now run by Imogen Maya and Solana Hansel. Projects we have done include environment protests, recycling initiatives, reusable shopping bags, waste-free lunches, and environmental awareness mufti days. One of the projects that EcoTour Pacific is currently focusing on is General Comment 26, a framework being produced by the Committee on the Rights of the Child, focusing on the rights that children have to a healthy environment, which our founder Aniva Clark is an advisor for. She is currently a part of the 13-person group of youth from across the world called the Children's Advisory Team for the Committee on the Rights of the Child for General Comment 26. This comment will outline what countries that are a part of the Convention on the Rights of the Child must do to ensure that children's rights to a healthy environment are protected. Ia whawhitai lava.
O te toi whaatalofa atu Samoa I lau mai moanga I le nei Taeao. Ia o te whiawhia whailo atu o lo ma ua whaatase I nei ma le tamaita ia Aniva Clark. She's our special guest on our youth show today. Good morning, Aniva.
Good morning, Talofa lava. My name is Aniva. I am 16 years old from Tupulaga. I go to school in New Zealand. I'm a climate activist, and I'm very happy and honored to be here today.
Good morning. Welcome, Aniva, to Generation for Tomorrow. What a beautiful video, of just about the rights of children on climate change. So, my first question this morning, Aniva, for you. To my knowledge, you have been a climate activist since the age of 10. Imagine as a 10-year-old, engaging in just one of the most biggest issues in the world. So what inspired you to be so, and what purpose do you hope to achieve down this movement?
Well, I think that the biggest thing that inspired me was having role models like Langipoiva Cheryl Jackson and having, Fia Mayor as the first female deputy prime minister and now the first female prime minister, and all the strong women around me in my family and just always encouraging me, and especially women in STEM and that encouragement. So I started my work at 10 with a science project at my school at Waiala Beach in year 7, and it was trying to decompose plastic bags.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I put plastic bags in different solutions. So it was like dirt, and then salt water to represent like the sea, and then fresh water like for like waterways, like rivers, and then bleach, because like bleach is a really strong solution. solution, and in all those different solutions, the plastic bags didn't decompose. So I compared the plastic bags that weren't biodegradable compared to the ones that were, and the biodegradable ones didn't biodegrade either. So I use that as a way to make a point that no matter if they're biodegradable or not, they actually don't biodegrade. And so that was a really impacting part of that point in my journey to coming here. And then followed by that, I did a speech competition, and for both of those things, I won it, and so that sort of encouraged me to keep going. And then the next year, I did another science project about calculating carbon footprints of my class, about traveling to and from school and how that's impacting our environment and how many trees we need to plant to offset that. And then with that, I won that again. So it was it just encouraged me a lot. And then I won the Samoa Conservation Award in that category at school, so that really helped me want to do more and gain more opportunities.
Wow, just at 10 years old, Samoa. Thank you very much, Aniva.
Inspiring story, Aniva, for all the young women in Samoa. So here's a recall from 2018. What was your experience as a representative of Samoa and the Pacific at regional meeting on the rights of children to a clean environment in Indonesia?
That was an amazing, eye-opening experience. I had the amazing opportunity to go with another climate activist from Savaii named Jane Tupulaga, and we represented Samoa, and we were also the only members of the Pacific there. So it was very eye-opening, because when we arrived there, it was just full of people, and we never seen so many people conjugated into one small space. And it was just at the airport with that many people there, and everything was just so fast-paced, and it was just completely different to life in Samoa, where everything's very relaxed. And and then the pollution there was extremely noticeable with the sky. We couldn't believe that the sky was gray, and we made this video to show the other youth there what the Voices from Samoa, because we always believe that in order to represent Samoa, you always have to take others with you. And so we took a video that we had. So Jane filmed some youth voices from Savaii, and I did a few from Upolu, and we put it together and we presented the video, and the youth there just couldn't believe that our sky was blue, because they'd never seen blue sky before. And just everywhere there was rubbish, and it was just terrible to see that was the environment that they had to live in.
Imagine that. So can you also can you give us a brief summary on the handbook that you have written for the Eco Tour leaders, and also tell us about what Eco Tour is?
So Eco Tour, it started as an environment club in 2018 at Bayala Beach School, where we did different projects like Waste Free Wednesdays, where the rubbish bins were taken away and everyone didn't bring rubbish to school. So it was like to encourage people to use reusable options. And then we also did, we made these reusable bags when the plastic bags were first banned. And so we were selling them to help fundraise and encourage people to use reusable bags. And then from there, after I left Bayala, I had two other students each year, so they were running it and I would help them. So they organized a climate protest, and they also would do a lot of mufti days that were environment themed, so that they would bring awareness about the importance of our environment at school. And then following on from there, I got to go to Indonesia, and then after that I applied to be a member of a children's advisory team for the United Nations on the Committee on the Rights of the Child. And being selected was an amazing opportunity for me, because we were focusing, the focus of that work is on healthy environment and climate action. And so from there, I really wanted to create an organization that would allow youth across the region to have their voices heard in that committee. Even though there's only one person from the Pacific representing, I wanted to bring everyone with me. So that's why I set up like a regional organization called Eco Tour Pacific, where it's like it stems from the Eco Tour Club, but at like a regional level, and focusing on empowering other youth and encouraging them to have their voices heard in children's rights and climate action. And in terms of the handbook, I wrote this with the help of Sherelle Jackson and my mom. We wrote this handbook using our knowledge of how we could run an environment group. So we used all our notes that we had collected over the years, and we formed this handbook with step-by-step information on how to run a group. And so we always wanted to start more eco-tour clubs at primary schools across Samoa, but it was not able to happen because of COVID issues. And so that's why we haven't done that. But focusing on Eco-Tour Pacific right now has been amazing, and connecting that to the Children's Advisory team, which is focusing on General Comment 26, which is an authoritative guidance on how children's rights are impacted by the environmental crisis and what governments must do to uphold these rights. And so right now we are in the process of analyzing answers to our questionnaire, and so 4% of the answers were from the Pacific, and that there were 7,000 answers. So I believe it was around, the math was around like over 300, I think, Pacific people answered, which is very small. But when we looked at the responses, 15% of the people that answered that they are personally impacted by the environmental crisis was from the Pacific. And these answers were an average to make the responses equal, which meant that, compared to countries that had 1,000 responses, the Pacific still had a really high percentage of how many people are being impacted. And so that was just really eye-opening for me to see that a lot of other youth feel the same way, that they're, seeing the impacts of sea level rise and seeing deforestation and how that's impacting our flooding and those all sorts of issues that I think are really important to highlight. Yeah.
And just changes in the environment I think it all has to do with, I think most of our youth are just not aware, or also they do not know where to access all these programs that you have for them, in order for them to just speak and just talk about their experience and how climate change has impacted them, because we see it now with the changes of environment going on. And we'll be right back right after this short commercial break, so don't go anywhere, Samoa. Welcome back, Samoa. Still here with the beautiful Miss Aniva Clark, our very own climate activist since the age of 10. Let me just make that a fact. Miss Aniva, and to my knowledge, I mean, of course, there will be a lot of youth out there that are really interested in climate change and just, making their own mark and making a change. So what do you say about what ways should they make, or what's the progress that they should go through to be able to become like you, a climate activist?
I think just standing up and speaking out for what you believe for, whether that's through even the smallest opportunities that come your way. Because, I started with a science fair project at school. And so even, I saw in the newspaper the other day about a writing competition, and you have to write about change. And so you could talk about, the change of our environment over time. And so just doing those little things, you get noticed. And as you continue to take every smaller step, you get further and further along, and as you take that further step, you just continue to make your mark. And I think that that's the secret to getting there, and always just taking others with you and giving other people that opportunity, because if you do that, then people will do the same for you. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. My other question would be, so what's the future for Ekotoa, and please tell us, how do we access your programs?
Well, in terms of the future for Ekotoa, I really want to make it something that's accessible for all children, no matter whether they live in a rural area or an urban area. And so I think because it's so social media based currently, I think it's something that we really want to do is make it more of a face-to-face program, similar to Brown Girl Woke, where you can go out into the communities and
be hands-on.
Do that sort of stuff, where you can actually do those programs and trainings to help encourage our youth. And so that's sort of the future.
Yes. So how do we access your programs as of now, since you mentioned that it's social media based?
So currently you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Ekotoa Pacific, where we put out a lot of information about how you can be an environmental activist, and the same with just opportunities that pop up, whether that's scholarship or applications that you can apply for, or even just information that we repost and share, especially in the Pacific lens. And so that's currently how you can access it. But there's also a training that I got to participate in and help create with the United Nations Environmental Program called the Training for Young People to a Healthy Environment. And so in this training, it's online. And so even if you just search it up on the internet, Youth Training, United Nations Environmental Program, it will pop up. And so it's a program that allows you to do step-by-step on how to, you start off with learning and understanding the environmental crisis and what you can do, slowly you step through how you can start taking action yourself. And in the final part, it's about doing your own work to make change. And so in that part, I have a small video with a fellow children advisor with me named Madhvi from America. And so we have these short videos about what you can do to be an activist.
Thank you very much for that, Aniva.
That's really nice, Aniva. We Bronco Woke admire young souls like you. As we're coming to the end of our show, but before we leave, Miss Aniva, what encouragements do you have for the young minds watching you this morning?
Well, I really think it's important that you always stand up for what you believe in, no matter what, whether you think it's going to be, something that's too controversial. It's always important that you speak your mind. Even though we're young, we have a voice, and we should never be overlooked because of age. Yeah, and also just take every opportunity that comes your way, whether that's through, a small little thing, like a science fair or anything like that. Always just take it, because it will always take you somewhere more and further. And I think something else that's really important is to always serve and bring others with you, because someone has given you that opportunity that you've gotten, and so just bringing others with you and doing the same for others is always super important. And so, like the ala leala lipuli also, you always have to, the pathway to leadership is through service. And so you must always serve your community no matter what. And just always remember who you are and where you're from, because you have to always stay humble and just remember your culture and your roots, and never let the ideas and the things that you do and get further and further ahead, let that take away who you are.
Person. Thank you very much for that, Ms. Aniva. Ms. Aniva Clark has been selected as one of the 12 Global Youth Advisors on the inaugural Children's Advisory Team, established to facilitate youth consultations on children's rights, the environment, and climate change. So Aniva Clark herself is just at such a young age has made such a huge impact. I hope you, Samoa, have been encouraged yourselves. As Ms. Aniva has said, no matter what age, that should never be a barrier for you. The sky is the limit, the world is your oyster. So as Ms. Aniva has said, check out their websites on social media, on all platforms. And thank you for joining us this morning, Ms. Clark. BGW and Generation for Tomorrow wishes you all the best on your journey and making a mark in Samoa. We hope in the future to have a collaboration or partnership with you, BGW, and Ms. Aniva Clark on making, more impact than just awareness, because that is the beautiful part about BGW and you, Ms. Aniva Clark, climate activist, is just making our young minds aware of all these issues happening in Samoa. So thank you once again, Ms. Aniva. We look forward to seeing you once again. That we have come to a conclusion for our first section of our show, and please stay tuned for our second group coming in for our last 30 minutes. We'll be right back, Samoa.
O te tue whātalo whātu Samoa I lau whaasausanga I le nei Taeao. Ia, o te whiawhia e whailoa atu o lea ua mātou whaatasi ai ma le susunga I a Soheo. Talo wha Soheo.
Talo whalabo.
Welcome back, Samoa. But before we go on to questioning and interviewing Mr. Soheo, the great Soheo, here are a few clips, a little bit about their work.
Always round post.
Yeah, always round post.
Ese
Beautiful clips we have there, Samoa. So once again, welcome the great, the amazing Soheo with us this morning, all the way from Imagine Samoa. Good morning and welcome on our youth show, Soheo.
Thank you, Tia. Thank you for having me here. I'm very honored to be here. So, tala whalaba Samoa, my name is Soheo Samuela Ale. I am a science communicator for Imagine Samoa. And what I mainly do is I create science projects or science experiments in a fun and hands-on way that correlates to the science principles. And this is for primary school kids for the meantime, and also for primary school teachers.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Mr. Sohail. Welcome once again.
Thank you for having me.
So, Sohail, our first question will be, what does STEM mean to the education process and culture of a school for students and educators?
Thank you for the question. So, STEM is basically a project or a science experiment that is related to the principles of sciences that is created for fun or hands-on way. And I think for the culture in Samoa, our goal is to encourage children and youth, vulnerable and also marginalized groups all over the country, to take on science in a very positive way. And we were so kindly requested by the Ministry of Education, Sports and Culture, and upon request that it would be more helpful if we were targeting primary schools. So our team decided to take on a vast majority of schools coming in. They needed help with their primary level education. So we put together a show which is called Imagine Show. And we also put another kind of show for teachers, which is called Professional Development Program, which is one of my favorite programs. So a show is basically for Imagine. We have all these science shows where kids can see and interpret and also have a critical way of thinking of what's going on with the science experiment that our science communicator is actually doing. And then there's reasoning as well. And then that's when they come in and they ask questions, and you're like, oh, I didn't know that this was possible. How are you guys able to do this? And like, it's because we've been doing research in creating fun experiments for kids, and we've been inviting kids to actually try it, and that's where they learn. I've noticed as well that there's I think recently there is a stats that was given by Ministry of Education regarding very small amounts of children taking up science subjects when they move into colleges. And there's also a research that was shown Samoa's future generations are not attaining the necessary knowledge or the critical thinking skills associated with the STEM subjects to take on the Pacific region's most pressing challenges. So critical thinking and problem solving is a major issue in the South Pacific region, and this is where skilled laborers they really lack in the Pacific region. And hence why Imagine Samoa targeting primary school levels, because that's where everything starts before they move into colleges, and then they move into universities. And after university, they get to choose which career they want to take. So, yeah.
So he olea se fe au ua lava o lo o tau tamawhai pe e whai loa ma wha manino mo le tupulanga o tātou atunu.
Whaftaila mo le whafsili o le mea tā ua ia mātou e tama whaia lea ia awa wina ia tamiti la iti i pokalame wha sainisi ma pokalame ia wha numerma wha teknolosi. O se mea pito sili na mātou whaanoa noa ai pe se mea le mo te tama whai fo ia e whalai au fo ina i tamiti la iti. E tama whai le e abe whaasai nisi, e abe whaateknolosi, e abe fo el whaanumera. E leise whaawhinga taina pe a tama whai fo ilea ia tato mātua, ma tato whaaraputonga, e tū le tato whaanau iti, e abe whaasai nisi, abe whaateknolosi, whainsingia fo o pēnā fo ma whaanumera. O le ala lea lenga awe tua moto whaau mako au nanga i tua i nuu ma o ngai tono whaaraputonga. E tama whaile tū le tamiti e mausea o inga whau mai matou pokalame e ma matou experiments ma whatita inga i whai tonu o matou show pēnā fo ia pokalame mo whai ao. ia tama whaile whaia unga e oto mai sina mea tā ua lava ia lātou. E loa ia mawelesi marsi anga mo lisi tamaititi e anga wa ai whaile mea e nate fia I lumana.
Just passion. Thank you very much for that, Sahil. As you mentioned, your target audience is always primary school
Yes.
kids because that is where everything starts,
Yes.
as we all believe. So I believe that's just your target audience overall for all programs are. Okay, so my question would be based on the STEM programs that you initiated in partnership with BGW, Brown Girl Woke, because I had just joined later on, so I kind of do not have much knowledge on it, but I'm very curious, why is it that you only targeted just young girls and young women?
Thank you for the question. So for Imagine itself, we don't just target girls, but we target both boys and girls. But the reason why we have joined partnership with Brown Girl Woke is because, to be honest, scientifically proven, females or girls, they have much better critical thinking and problem-solving skills than males do. So I'm sorry to all the males there. If you don't have that skill set or have not
It's facts.
have not really get up to the level where girls are. But I think a good example is a mother towards her children. And if you see that they will do anything to protect their kids, which is critical thinking, and then they will take the step, okay, I'm going to take my kids to school. Now, what subject I'm going to make them who they are and become the person that they want to be. And that's where reasoning comes in. And that's where the child begins to have a sense of purpose. So it all starts with critical thinking and reasoning, just to begin with, when it comes to girls being involved into science. So we do encourage girls and we do encourage boys. But we don't just target girls, but the only reason why we joined the BGW team, it's a good opportunity for us to reach out to schools like St. Mary's and Babota Girls Schools. And I think you were there recently.
Yes.
And we were really happy that we were part of that STEM program, because the girls there, it's so funny that they even came to us asking, oh my God, I didn't know that we can actually do this at home. We can create experiments out of garbage.
Yes.
Which is true, because everything that we've created, we see it in our backyards, we see it in our kitchen.
Garbage, yeah.
Just garbage. So that's why there's a saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So you create something out of something that you see that has no use, but there is a value in something that when you create it. So yeah, that's why we've joined with Brown Girl Woke to be in those STEM programs involving girls in STEM.
Only. Yes, beautiful. Another beautiful fact for our young women, scientifically proven. Excuse me. So, Sahel, do tell me, will there be more STEM programs in the future, or just?
Oh, absolutely. So Imagine Samoa has been putting together these PDs for teachers. So we will still be continuing STEM programs for teachers, development program for teachers. There are development programs that we offer to any organization in general, anyone that wants to, for example, a climate change activist who wants to emphasize on climate change. We have experiments that hands-on experiments that we can actually offer you guys, that you can try and take it to any audience and then educate them about what's going on in the climate issue here in the South Pacific. Another is that our STEM activities with schools as well, we're still continuing. We'll be going to, so it's always available for both Savai and Upolu. So we'll be going out to schools all over Samoa. And Imagine Samoa is only for Samoa only. There is tons of other organizations just like Imagine that's all over in the Pacific in Fiji. So we're in partnership with an organization called Science Circuit Pacific. So they offer us tons of programs where we get to participate through Zoom, and we learn from their different experiences from from both the science communicators and also the teachers from those different schools in the South Pacific. And we incorporate those learnings into our own learnings and make it ours in a way, so that way when we do our shows and teachers are able to understand what we're trying to do, and also kids as well, just to get them more involved.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Taeao. We'll be right back right after this short commercial break. Welcome back, Samoa, from that short commercial break. Still here with us, the amazing Taeao. Hi, Taeao, once again.
Hello again.
I'd like to ask, so how can one be a science communicator as yourself, and how can, just say me, how do I join Imagine Samoa?
Thank you for the question. Well, that's quite easy. So how I started was that my coordinator, Ruth Mapupua, who is the founder of Imagine, she couldn't be here because she's got some other things for us waiting.
Yes.
So she approached us and asked if we were interested in becoming a science communicator. And I said, okay, sure, why not? So how we do it, so basically we go through a training process with the Australian National University. They offer STEM training for science communicators through Zoom, and they might be able to send a team over as well to give you a little perspective of what's going on and how do you approach the language and posture towards presenting towards children. And there's a different language and posture towards presenting with teachers. And this is where the PD and the science shows is different from each other. So children have a very different kind of way of learning, and whereas adults, they also have a different kind of learning as well. So to join, you come to Imagine Science Circus. You can actually go on Facebook as well, which is Imagine Science Samoa. It's available for anyone who has access to internet. If not, you can come over to Waitele at South Price Company Limited. There on the second floor, we have a whole exhibit there, and that's where our training facility is out. Soon there will be a permanent science center here at Malifa. So there is going to be available for all parents and also teachers and students to come and participate and to get a little bit of a fun learning in towards the science experiment that we've actually created.
Thank you very much, Taeao. Sorry. So we've reached the last segment of our show. Before we go, I'd like to ask you, what words of encouragement would you like to say to the young, aspiring youth of Samoa on the other side of the screen?
Oh, thank you for the question. So, words of encouragement to all youths and students of Samoa. So I highly encourage students to find science as everyday thing. Science surrounds us. So if you can find the science, you can actually make sense of things. Another is we encourage young students to always question the surrounding or the world around them. That way you can understand what are the fundamental principles in science that you learn from school that you can apply in real life situations. Another is keep up with the news, the environments, and also with the MESC as well. They have a page there where students can look up educational programs. Another is Google as well. Encourage you guys to use the internet wisely. Don't abuse it. There's tons of other experiments and hands-on experiments that you kids can actually look up on Google. Another one is to talk about engineering, talk about mathematics, talk about sciences with your adult brother or adult sisters. Also, I encourage also the parents, the adult siblings to actually encourage your young siblings to do something fun with science. There are tons of other things that you can actually do with your siblings. For example, instead of going through your phone, you can take them to the beach and educate them on coral reefs. Or you can, you guys have a car, you guys can open the engine, teach them about anything that's parts of the car, and then the young ones will, as they grow up, they understand, and they might become engineers, they might become technicians, they might become teachers as well, and they might become scientists. So it all starts from adults on how we approach the young ones and to teaching them to become future scientists for Samoa.
So it's all bringing Taeao. Thank you very much for that. Just to highlight once again, teach your young ones about car engines. Do not break your parents' cars. Do not try that at home. We do not encourage that over here. Once again, that is who we have for you, Samoa Imagine Samoa Science and Technology Center. Their aim is to increase interest in Samoa, encourage boys and girls to carry on to career paths in science and inspire all students to become responsible, scientifically literate citizens who engage with science and embrace innovation and entrepreneurship to improve development outcomes. Over to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Taeao. Ia o te manatu Samoa o le tatou pokalama lena I le nei Taeao ai momoli atu le whawhetai ma le whaamalo I tatou malo whaalolongia fo I mo le tatou pokalama o le tupulanga mo a Taeao I le nei fo I aso. E whapito fo I la mātou whawhetai I le au nanga a le tatou ala atar TV tolu mo le whaalau iloa ina o le nei pokalama ma tangofie mo tupulanga talavou. So e tule te tau mai a soluru taitasi, mo nisi fo i o mata upu matango fie, mo le atina e ina o Tupulaga mo a Taeao, mani e tele tiute, ma whaiva Samoa, still whasoi fo.
There you have it, Samoa. We have come to the conclusion of Generation for Tomorrow, brought to you by TV3 Management, and we would like to thank both our amazing special guests with us this morning, Miss Aniva Clark, and also the amazing Taeao from Imagine Samoa. Please do check them out. Use the opportunities wisely. As both of them have said, take each chance or every chance that you are given to, be hands-on with science. Also, we'd like to thank Brown Girl Woke, our founder, Doris Tulifau, for this amazing platform. And once again, TV3 Management for bringing to you Generation for Tomorrow every Wednesday live 9 to 10. Thank you, Samuel, for tuning in. Have an amazing Wednesday. We'll see you once again next week. Tofa Sefua.